Kratos has often been described as one of the most powerful characters in all of the gaming world. He literally used to beat up gods for a living before relegating himself into a peaceful life, and then being forced back into beating up gods again, but now from a different pantheon. Oh boy, how many Vikings does it take to beat up Kratos? This is the first versus video ever that consists of a non-D&D character taking on D&D NPCs, so let us know how you like it. And if you're thinking, wait, these roles look suspiciously cinematic, that's because they absolutely were. That's why we have a second channel dedicated to full VODs of our filming live streams. No trickery, just pure unfiltered destruction. Link is in the description below. This encounter takes place on a frozen bridge, whether it be somewhere in Jotunheim or a bridge to Asgard itself, with Kratos on the north side charging to the south, and Vikings pouring in from the south side. A couple of key things that are in effect for this fight. Number 1, we've taken a combination from a character sheet made in our virtual tabletop and a very overpowered stat block from a different site, using parts from either sheet for this particular fight. Number 2, the Vikings' weapons are all magical, donated by the country of Scandinavia. Yup, all of you. You are all one country now. Number 3, we're throwing stronger units at Kratos the longer the video goes onward, assigning higher Viking point values to them as we go. The fight started off with Kratos on the north side and 32 Berserker Vikings stepping up for the first wave. I was having doubt that they were going to take a long time to reach each other by making the map so long, but the 50 feet of movement we gave to Kratos put my mind at ease. They all charged at each other and finally clashed after 2 rounds. Kratos had a legendary action to cast any 1 to 5 level fire or ice spell, so he opted to cast Cone of Cold on the first line of Berserkers at the end of their turn. Kratos then entered a rage and switched to his Blades of Chaos, which had a 15 by 15 foot cleave area and went into melee range. The first poor soul caught in the middle took full damage, while everybody else actually took half damage. Kratos got first blood, racking up 1 elimination and severely wounding the others. The Berserkers all swarmed Kratos, and considering he had a modest AC of 28, it's not very unbelievable for me to tell you that none of the 14 attacks made to him actually hit. Absolute clown show. This is gonna take a while. Kratos then racked up 1 more elimination with his legendary action and was still sitting pretty on 400 HP. On our boss's turn, he had 3 attacks with his Blades of Chaos, so he swung 3 times at a portion of enemies, scoring 5 more eliminations. But wait, on the Berserkers' turns, they actually managed to land 2 natural 20s. The crowd goes wild, and then they deal a whopping 17 damage. Yep, that's it. Kratos heals for 40 HP at the start of his turn anyway, meaning their valiant efforts were entirely erased from history. Fun. Another 32 Berserkers pile in. I'm not padding the elimination count, what are you talking about? At the end of the attacking Berserkers' turns, Kratos added 5 more eliminations from his Cone of Cold legendary action. On Kratos' actual turn, he unleashed the Blades of Chaos again, adding 5 more Berserkers to the elimination count. Oh, and by the way, Kratos did heal up for 40 HP. After some negligible attacks from the Berserkers, Kratos racked up another 10 eliminations from his legendary actions and his turn proper, while the other wave was charging towards him. Keep in mind, this is a nerfed version of him, by the way. Whoever made this was smoking something, and I mean a lot of it. At this point, I will only mention whenever Kratos takes damage in the event that he can actually not out-heal it. As the second wave reaches Kratos, he kindly greeted them with another Cone of Cold, putting the majority of the Berserkers near half their HP. The third wave has arrived. These are 16 Winter Wolves being ridden by 16 more Berserkers. We ruled that the Winter Wolves will be worth 3 points if taken down. They arrived just in time to watch Kratos start shredding through their front lines, taking down 13 more Berserkers while being swarmed. The Winter Wolves positioned themselves so Kratos couldn't hit them with a spell to charge in on their next turn. After 14 more eliminations from legendary actions in Kratos' actual turn, the wolves charged past Kratos to get into range of their cold breaths. 8 wolves used their breath weapons on him. Oh, their breath is also magical. They brushed the wolves' teeth with like Colgate or Vicks Vapor Rub, I don't care. Kratos took some notable damage here. In total, their damage was 84, but the acceptable casualty rate went up to 8 eliminations. Kratos sent a flame strike to the group of wolves as his legendary action and unleashed another Blades of Chaos attack on the wolves, adding 2 more eliminations from the flurry of strikes. The rest of the wolves that still had their breath weapons on them and the Berserkers unleashed their attacks and breath weapons, dealing a total of 112 damage, but adding 4 more eliminations to the count via friendly fire. As a legendary action, Kratos retaliated by eliminating 8 more Viking equivalents. For our 4th wave, we have the Frost Giants entering the battle. Poised to fling their rocks from a long distance, we assign 10 Viking value to these Frost Giants. After Kratos wiped out 4 more Vikings, the Berserkers executed all of their attacks, knowing that they will be friendly fired by their own wolves, but eagerly awaiting Valhalla. Half the wolves breath weapon Kratos and dealt 58 damage, and our boss decided to wall of fire across the entire bridge as a legendary action, adding 7 more eliminations. The frost giants all flung their magic rocks at Kratos, managing to crit and hit him for 40 damage. At this point, Kratos actually got under 200 HP, making him bloodied, and whenever this happens, the dice for his damage get increased as well, so he has more DPS. After taking out 3 more wolves and 1 more berserker, we were debating if Kratos should tactically retreat or not, and came to the conclusion that he isn't bitch made, so he ran towards the giants for them to have trouble throwing more rocks at him. The wolves pursued and chomped him for 8 damage, but he retaliated by taking out 6 more of them. The giants encircled Kratos with their axes, while the backline still threw rocks at him, dealing a total of 81 damage to Kratos. We've now switched to using the Great Weapon Master feat for Kratos because the giants weren't that hard to hit, so from now on he dealt an extra 10 damage to everything. The fight continued on, and 2 wolves ended up going down before Kratos used his kick to knock a frost giant off the ice bridge, and with no way to climb back up, we added the frost giant to the tally. Our 5th wave consisted of 32 Valkyries entering the battle. We assigned a Viking value of 25 to them. 2 frost giants ended up going down from Kratos' blades, and the Valkyries took flight, casting Death Ward on themselves to all delay the inevitable. Kratos kept getting dogpiled, and he took 67 more damage before getting tired of these giants' shit, and kicked another giant off the bridge with his legendary action. The Valkyries spread out to not get hit by an AoE spell, and prepared to descend downwards to hit Kratos with their Asgardian weapons. They were right to disperse, because Kratos flung a fireball at them, dealing a total of 7 damage to them because they actually both succeeded in their saves and were resistant to fire damage. At this rate, I'll just narrate the pivotal points in the fight. If you'd like to see everything that happened in detail, take a look at our 2nd channel for the full fight. The Valkyries swarmed Kratos and loomed 30 feet over him, getting ready to dive onto him. Nearly all of the Valkyrie now were encompassed by Kratos' fireball. He didn't deal a lot of individual damage, but in total, spread out throughout the entire group, managed to deal a total of 667 damage to all of them. This has to be one of the most damaging abilities we've ever thrown in the Versus series. 1 more giant was felled by a legendary action, and on Kratos' actual turn, he finished off the last remaining giant. The Valkyries went boots on the ground and engaged Kratos in melee, dealing 45 more damage with their innate radiant damage on their longswords. Our next wave has arrived. Coming in are 2 bosses, 2 brothers. The sons of Thor are rolling out. Magni and Modi are charging into battle. We assigned 100 point values to each of these brothers. After Kratos eliminated 3 more Valkyries, he sent another fireball out at the end of one of the brothers' turns, dealing 315 damage across 21 Valkyries. On Kratos' turn, a big wave of eliminations happened. Kratos cleaved through a big chunk of the Valkyrie platoon and took out 10 of them with a mix of a crit and a hit. Modi, now nearly out of breath, finally managed to reach Kratos. After he got to his destination, he was immediately punched by Kratos as a legendary action, and the same thing happened for Magni. I know this wasn't optimal, but this was pretty funny to see on stream. Angling for some pest control, Kratos took out 2 more Valkyries with his blades. In all of this fighting, Magni and Modi used their legendary actions to attack with their great swords, dealing 35 damage, leaving Kratos bloodied again. Modi uses Thunderclap, accepting some friendly fire and making Kratos do a strength saving throw to take 14d8 thunder damage, only dealing 22 damage to him, not knocking him prone and taking out 2 more Valkyries. As friendly fire, of course. Magni flanked and struck Kratos for 35 more damage as Kratos retaliated, taking out 1 more Valkyrie. Magni was then promptly kicked off the bridge by Kratos and plummeted all the way down, taking 81 total damage from the kick and the fall. It's gonna take him quite a bit of time to get himself back on the bridge again. Kratos then took out 3 more Valkyries before our next wave came in. This is the first time Kratos has not regenerated from being bloodied. The next boss has arrived. I know what you all must be thinking. It's gotta be the next logical boss of the Norse pantheon. Well, do I have a surprise for you? Oh my god, it's Ragnar Lothbrok from the hit series Vikings. He's been called to help out on the bridge, and with his beefed up battle master fighter self, he's happy to oblige. We assigned 150 Viking values to Ragnar. On Kratos' turn, he surprisingly only managed to land 1 hit, taking out 5 more Valks. For Modi's legendary actions and actual turn, he managed to deal a whopping 70 more damage before him and the rest of the Valkyries all got put down, adding a total of 275 Viking equivalents to the tally. Now that Kratos was getting low on health, we decided to give him additional effects to his bloodied effect. He could now make 1 more attack with his bonus action. On Ragnar's turn, we decided to unleash his full arsenal onto Kratos. We took out the limitations on action surge and allowed him to spend both of his surges on a single turn, making a total of 12 attacks onto Kratos, combining all of his Battlemaster maneuver hit dice to deal 60 damage. Kratos then used Immolation on Ragnar to catch him on fire as a legendary action, and Modi finally made it up onto the bridge, prompting Kratos to use his legendary action to walk up to him and kick him back off the bridge on his turn again, plummeting onto the ground, taking 45 more damage and having having a long way up once more. Kratos switched his attention back onto Ragnar, kicking him next to a wall, and he proceeded to what could only be described as curb stomping him into the wall for 49 damage. Ragnar desperately tried to retaliate some attacks, but his rolls were too bad, only hitting a couple of attacks for 19 damage before getting burned and kicked again for 50 damage. Our last commander has arrived. We literally had nothing else prepared after this. Thor, seeing his sons being a disappointment on the battlefield, came back down to finish the job himself. We put a point value of 200 for Thor. Kratos proceeded his Ragnar stomping, dealing 105 damage total to him. Magni finally managed to make it up again, only to have Kratos move up to him as a legendary action and prepare to kick him off again. As Thor flew to the middle of the battlefield, Kratos kicked Magni off once again, this time finishing him off for good and adding 100 more eliminations to the count. He then switched his focus to Ragnar and managed to finish kicking his face into the ground, adding 150 more Viking equivalents to the elimination count. It has now boiled down to Kratos versus Thor to duke it out. Thor was able to make one thunderclap in front of Kratos and 2 Mjolnir attacks, and he'll be getting more and more buffed as his health gets lowered. I've sped up this video by an insane amount, but this entire one-on-one combat took about 35 minutes in real time to complete. Both of them were slugging away at each other, with Kratos managing to keep up with the DPS of Thor thanks to his regeneration, and now due to his low HP, we gave Kratos 5 attacks in total due to his grievously wounded state. They went back and forth, absolutely pummeling each other until Thor was put to low HP, and at that point I gave Thor 4 attacks, one as a replacement to the thunderclap and the other one due to his bloodied nature. Kratos actually managed to still remain in the fight and chip away at Thor until he got him to extremely low HP as well, and at that point I gave Thor an extra 2 damage dice to his attacks. The fight all boiled down to Kratos using his reckless attacks to hit Thor, but missing all of his own attacks against Thor's 28 AC, and was left on dangerously low HP, but clawed back by dodging many more of Thor's other attacks. Thor unleashed his final set of attacks and managed to get Kratos down to 0 HP. But Kratos had one last trick up his sleeve, and it is called Rage Beyond Death. This meant that Kratos could keep attacking as if he were still alive, but he needed to keep making death saving throws at the start of each of his turns. For balance reasons, we decided we were not going to give him his regeneration at this state of his rage. Succeeding one death saving throw, Kratos managed to unleash all of his attacks onto Thor, actually managing to bring him down to 0 HP and eliminate the God of Thunder, adding 200 more to the elimination count. Once he took out all of the waves we prepared for him, it was time to see if the God of War was going to succeed all of his saving throws and survive the battle. He failed one death saving throw, making it 1-to-1 between successes and fails, but then I rolled a natural 1 on his death save, making him die at the end of his rage. Kratos, after finishing his job on the icy fjords, looked over the railing one last time before collapsing onto the ground and being eliminated himself. GG's. All in all, Kratos took out all of our deployed troops, so it took all of the 1,592 Vikings worth of units that we had prepared in order to take him down. Thank you for watching this hell of a battle. If you want to see the full battle unfold, head on over to the D20 Dilemma VODS channel in the description below to see the full unedited fight. Join us on Discord and let us know if these non-D&D bosses are fun for you to watch. And to whoever is still watching, have yourself a good one.